Hello everyone and welcome to another casual review. Today I'm talking about Firewatch. This game came out about a decade, I want to say, and it received a ton of praise when it first came out. I never had the opportunity to play it, so while I was looking for something short and sweet, I ended up stumbling across this game once more and decided to give it a go. Now this game is first and foremost a story-heavy game. I don't even know if it's necessarily considered a game in the traditional sense. Most people might consider it more of a walking simulator type of genre, and so it's pretty impossible to talk about this game without unveiling some amount of spoilers. So that being said, I will try to keep it as spoiler free as possible while still having something to say about it. And so if you're concerned about minor spoilers, then maybe go play this game first and then listen to the casual review. This game starts out with a lot of exposition. Mostly it's telling you through text about our main character Henry and how he met his wife Julia. Julia was a very intelligent professor until she started showing signs of dementia, and things got very sad and weird between Julia and Henry over the years. And as you're reading this text, you sometimes have the option to make different dialogue choices. I'm not sure how much that affects the overall story, but sometimes you get to choose what kind of dog you have or how you respond in a fight with Julia. Eventually, they decide that Julia is better off with her family, and Henry decides to go join the Firewatch. This is an organization in Wyoming that basically hangs out in these watchtowers and makes sure that there are no random wildfires being unaccounted for. I believe the main gameplay takes place in the late 80s, if I'm not mistaken. Once the actual gameplay starts, you are quickly introduced to our other main character, a woman named Delilah. And you never see Delilah in person, you just talk to her via a radio walkie-talkie, and she's basically like your supervisor that tells you how to react to dumb teenagers lighting fireworks in the middle of the woods. This quickly develops into a quick friendship, maybe with some subtle romantic notations, but you have a decent amount of agency in terms of how you respond to Delilah and what things you decide to call into Delilah or not. I pretty much just called everything into her because I was curious mostly to hear about Henry's take on the situations that are happening. But again, I'm not sure how these radio interactions affect the overall story either. When you watch the trailers for this game, it's very clear that there is some sort of sinister undertone to this. It's not as simple as just telling dumb teenagers to stop lighting fireworks. And through the game, you start picking up on these subtle hints that there is something else going on in the woods. And of course, this leads the player to have these speculations and trying to predict what's happening exactly. You may start thinking in terms of supernatural capabilities in these woods. Sometimes you start wondering if you can actually trust Delilah and if you should be telling her all of these things. And the game takes place over the course of about 90-ish days. Of course, you don't play through every single day. It will skip far into the future sometimes. It's mostly you just waking up in your watchtower in the middle of the woods, and you see something suspicious or hear about something suspicious, and you have to travel through the woods to go investigate what's going on. There's obviously not any combat, there's not really any puzzles. I would say the main gameplay is just trying to figure out how you get from point A to point B. You're going to be pulling out your map and compass quite a lot, and I will say that the controls for opening up your map and looking at it and zooming in can be quite cumbersome. I think it would be easier to have it be like hold the shoulder button, you pull out your map and you can look at it, and then when you let go of the left shoulder button, then you can put it away, because you also can't run when you have your map and compass out, and so it makes navigating the woods slow and cumbersome, especially because anytime you encounter like a log or a ledge, you're going to have to press a button and watch this animation of you climbing over this obstacle. There's a lot of rappelling, so you might notice these steep cliffs and you have to like slowly climb up or climb down the rope to go down these slopes, and that is kind of the whole tone of the game. It's very much you're taking your time, you're not trying to rush to where you're going in most cases, I will say. You're kind of just in the environment as you listen to Henry and Delilah talk to each other. You can travel off the beaten path sometimes. There are these supply caches that are scattered across your jurisdiction of the woods, and usually inside them are notes of other previous rangers exchanging notes with each other. Usually in these supply closets, there's just like a bunch of random stuff like pine cones that you can just throw away, or like books that you can look at the cover of. Occasionally you might find an item that brings more dialogue options between you and Delilah, but it's not like exploring these woods and finding these items is going to help you out gameplay wise. It's more like you're finding these supply caches just because it gives you opportunities to draw and update your map that you use to navigate the woods. You do occasionally encounter items that will help you navigate these woods better, like you'll find an axe so that you can chop up obstacles and clear the way and to make these shortcuts, or you might find this rappelling kit so you can tie up these ropes and climb up and down these steep cliffs instead of having to walk around them. And so you can make your own little shortcuts to navigate through the woods easier, but they aren't absolutely necessary. You do encounter an old school camera, one of those cardboard temporary cameras, and you do have the opportunity to take pictures. I think you get like 20 pictures that you can take throughout the game. And I do wish that I took more pictures because I didn't really understand the point of the camera for a while, but you do get to see all of the pictures that you took throughout the game at the end credits. And so, you know, I do wish I kind of took more to remember more of this short journey that I took. If anything, it would have given me a little something extra to do as I was playing the game. I want to say that the game is graphically impressive, even by 2016 standards. I was playing this on the Nintendo Switch, and so I don't know if it looks better on like a PlayStation 4, but you're going to get a lot of pop-ins, texture pop-ins, objects just randomly pop in as they come into view. A lot of the time there's going to be like object clipping where like the rope that you're rappelling on kind of cuts into the rocks around it. But I will admit that there were several times when I was just wandering through the woods and there's a babbling creek running right next to me and the sun is setting. And despite my initial graphical impressions, there are a lot of moments playing this game where it actually looked quite beautiful, and it made me yearn to be in the middle of the woods and experience this in real life. The voice acting between Henry and Delilah is actually really good, and it better be, because that's pretty much the whole meat and potatoes of this game, is taking in this relationship between these two characters and how they are handling these strange situations together. It was very believable, and I think that many other games that have voice acting could take a couple notes from this game. Now, without getting into major spoilers, I will say that I was a little let down by the ending of the game, because I felt like the majority of the game is all about this build-up. Some crazy event is happening, something super suspicious is happening, and I want to uncover the mystery, but to me, I felt like the mystery wasn't enough of a payoff. I really enjoyed the build-up, and it had me intrigued the whole time, but I just think that the ending is what really makes or breaks the game, and so I did feel a little let down. I felt like some of my speculations of what is happening were better than what actually ended up happening. Of course, this is strictly my opinion, and opinions are quite subjective, and so maybe other people are quite satisfied with how it ended. Or I do suppose that another possibility is my choices led to a lackluster ending, and maybe there are multiple endings, and so if I had played this game in a different route or responded with my dialogue differently, that would have made the ending different. Something tells me, though, that the story is fairly linear, and there's not much influence I could have had on it, though. Like I said earlier, it is a short and sweet game. Takes about 3 to 4 hours to play through if you don't know where to go, and if you're bad at reading maps like I am. It's always difficult to review and rank games like this that aren't games in the traditional sense. They're more storytelling devices, but despite all that, I think I will try my best to give it a score of 3 out of 5, we'll say. And I'm still not sure if the game itself was the best storytelling device for this. I wouldn't call the gameplay itself intriguing, but it did help me get invested in the game, having more of the control of what the main character is doing and where they're going, what they are saying. So it did feel like I had more skin in the game because I was the main character rather than just like watching a movie or reading a book where this story is happening to the main character. Well, folks, that's it for me. Let me know if you have any questions or comments about Firewatch, and I'd love to hear what you have to say. Otherwise, I'll talk to you later. Bye!
Give him a break, Lily. He probably has